Police and his Commissioner of Police would listen.
Yes, but I just told you about the failure of infrastructure in River State. The police commissioner is not responsible for that. Over over 100 billion has been spent to build a new city, and there is no new city for anybody to see. You can't hold the commissioner of police responsible for that. I'm more interested. I understand the point you're making. There's a constitutional basis. Framing the kind of relationship the commissioner of police should have with the governor, because you need a safe environment for government to function. I understand that. But what I'm talking about is there seems to be a tendency to externalize the blame beyond the state government itself. The state government has direct administrative jurisdiction over River State. Okay, the police commissioner can come and go. There are several commissioners of police have come and gone. Yes. But I'm more interested in the failure of good governance itself in River State.
Mr. Tam-George,
yes.
Is it true that the schools, they've been rebuilding and refurbishing of schools and building up new schools? Is it true?
Yes, of course. That
is true.
The government has done fabulously well in terms of building infrastructure
in the educational sector.
Yes, in the primary and secondary school.
But that was an area you pointed out as wasn't working. You said the quarter.
Well, look, listen. If you have good schools, I have been in the educational sector over the past 19 years. If you have good schools, infrastructurally, that is far from sufficient. You need to have quality manpower. If you go to the University of Education or you go to River State Science and Technology, these are disaster zones. These are supposed to be centers of learning where you need to recruit, train, give the best possible, teacher training, such that people who emerge from those centers of learning will then, be able to populate and teach people in all of these, fantastic schools that he has built. So my own concern is that the governor, having started well in terms of building educational infrastructure, should not allow himself to be distracted from the purposes of government. He should make sure he focuses his attention in building manpower to make sure that those schools are properly run. Simply having those schools.
If he has an unstable environment,
yes,
like the portion of the Constitution Mark read, such things as he deems necessary to securing the state, if those areas are not handled, if there's no security in the state, do you think the governor will be focused?
Look, let me tell you something. In 2008,
do you think he'll be focused to work?
No, he will not be. He will not be. But let me tell you, there's a precedent to this. In 2008, the same governor, Governor Meche, set up the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, headed by the late Kayode Esho. What was the purpose of the commission? To look at all of the security failures under the elderly administration and to try to make sure that the systems of security and peace were created. I was based in Cape Town at the time. I flew down from Cape Town to testify, to submit a memorandum on behalf of my community and testify. The late Kayode Esho and his team did an excellent job, submitted a comprehensive report. I have a certified copy of the report, submitted to the governor as a roadmap for building peace, improving security in the state. 3 years after, what have we seen? Not a single word of that report has been released. Billions of naira have been spent. Not a single word of that. Kayode Esho is late now. The report has still not been released, meaning that the government apparently is not even interested in building peace. It's not interested in security.
Why did you set that up if they're not so interested?
The report was never released. I mean, this is something the media can verify. So it seems to me that people are allowing themselves to be deceived by the politics that we see. The governor doesn't seem to be interested in security. He's not interested in peace. If he were interested, he should implement the report, a comprehensive report.
Can you give us insight into some of the recommendations?
Of course, the recommendations indicted the previous administration of Peter Odili. Okay? Comprehensive indictment of, and you could not indict Peter Odili, except you also indict Governor Meche himself, because he was for 8 years, the Speaker of the House under Dr. Peter Odili. Throughout the 8 years, when there was complete failure of government, he didn't call for the deployment of any of the police commissioners that served in the state. So you see, if you stay in Lagos, you may not understand all of these things. The most important thing is we must return the debate to good governance practices. And there is a complete failure of that.
Okay,
If you don't build roads, just a second. If you don't build roads, yes. If you don't build roads, you can't hold the police commissioner responsible for that.
Do you know
and the Rivers people have a responsibility to ask questions.
Do you know the room of Lumeni Road?
Yes, I do.
Is it under construction?
It's been under construction for as long as I know. I was there last week, and there is absolutely no work being done. And this is the responsibility of the state government. You can't hold the police commissioner responsible for that. You can't hold the president responsible for that failure. You can't hold the first lady responsible for that failure. So what I'm saying is we should bring back the debate to good governance practices that have manifestly failed.
What you also seem to suggest is that there have been streaks of, there have been, let's say, symptoms of, of an environment of insecurity even before the administration of Governor Amechi.
For over 8 years, Dr. Peter Odile was governor in Rivers State. There was a complete failure of governance. Amechi was very much a part of it. He was the head of the legislature for 8 years. For 8 years. He set up a report. He set up a commission. I flew down from the University of Cape Town to testify. I have the report in my library. That report was handed over to Amechi. Kayode Esho and his team did an excellent job on that report.
Because you said that
he never implemented it. The white paper has never been released.
You said the report was, showing a path to peace and security.
Yes.
Why did we, all that we remember is, an indictment of the former governor, that definitely doesn't sound like a path to, peace.
Well, why an indictment is important is because it says that you could not be in government and then commit acts of violence against the people with impunity. And so we may be talking about peace, but you can't arrive at peace except people who perpetrate all kinds of injustices are held responsible. Otherwise, there will be a climate of impunity. And it is that kind of impunity that has festered up to this point because the report was never implemented. The government has never released the white paper.
It means that there were certain actions that ought to have been taken, sorry, Chamberlain.
Yes.
That ought to have been taken, for instance,
the governor or the former governor ought to be held directly responsible, judicially responsible. That report has never been released. All the people who occupied various levels of offices in Rivers State ought to be responsible for their different roles in bringing about insecurity and the loss of properties and lives in Rivers State. The report has never been released. I'm concerned about that. And Rivers people deserve an answer for that because these the members of the commission, we are very respectable people. Kayode Esho was not just another Nigerian. He was an excellent Nigerian. He came out of retirement to do an excellent job. That report was handed over to Governor Amechi and he has never released it. He has never implemented the report. So what kind of security situation do we expect in Rivers State?
I have some comments coming through here from those who are watching. SG Onu thinks that, the government has got some good things going for him. He says he was also in Port Harcourt and he thinks that some of these roads are in good condition. Then he says, as we speak, the Rivers State University is not on strike along with ASU, and those are some of the things of good governance that is going on for the state.
But for nearly a year, the Rivers State University, as you probably know in the media, you guys work in the media, for nearly 1 year, the Rivers State University was in crisis over the appointment or non-appointment of the Vice Chancellor. What I'm saying is that the governor and all the people who occupy different levels of government need to be held accountable. We must redirect this debate to good governance, not just about police commissioner, first lady. The president's mandate is national. The governor's mandate is within Rivers State, and he has a clear. Rivers State is one of the smallest states, has a population of just barely 4 million people, with billions of naira flowing over the past 9 years or so, since 15 years or so since 1999. We need to see what can be done in terms of bringing development to the people.
We've also seen some of these politicians display or carry out some actions that should not be. I mean, outright impunity, as people put it. Are we supposed to gloss over that also?
But that was the point I just made. If you set up a commission of inquiry and the reports are submitted to you, the report is submitted to you, and you don't implement the provisions of that report, what are you saying? You are saying, in a sense, that the commission wasted its time, and that the resources of the Rivers people were wasted, and that you never meant well in setting up the commission in the first place. In the last analysis, what you have that will crystallize is a climate of impunity, and that is what we are seeing now.
Does that have any direct relationship with not implementing that report and this one?
Well, Mark suggested something about how the work of security affects development. And my point is that if you have set up a committee that's made very practical suggestions on how you could deepen peace, how you could secure the state, you have such a report, they sat publicly, and it was covered, by the media. The report has never been implemented. So what kind of impunity should surprise us? This is the direct consequence of that.
Mr. Tam-George, there's some out there who would wonder, are you saying that because you want to focus on good governance, you want to provide infrastructure, things like a situation like what happened in the House of Assembly can go on and you stay focused on providing infrastructure?
If you have good governance.
No, is that what you're saying?
No, if you have good governance, there are specific elements within good governance itself. For instance, the people will be properly informed. And that is a function of education. If the people are properly informed, that information that they have, the kind of education they have, will influence the quality of leaders they will choose. When the people are ignorant, the quality of leaders that will emerge are the kind of leaders you see. The kind of leaders we have all seen on television. So the government has a direct responsibility in the ignorance of the people. You're in overcoming the ignorance of the people.
So in sorting the situation, in sorting out what happened on the floor of the State Assembly, what do we do?
The governor should redirect his attention to his core mandate, which is to provide good governance in the state. He should not be obsessed about what happens, in fact, outside the state.
And those that have breached the laws of the land?
Those that have breached the laws of the land, such as the members of the assembly, they should be held directly responsible for that.
Do you think that it is feasible? A host of people, and even the governor too, is said to have cried out that his life seems to be at risk right now.
Well, the lives of Rivers people have been at risk over the past 9 years.
So how does he now refocus on good governance, as you talked about?
Listen,
if he cannot function?
In the media we've read reports about how about 36 military people, who were guarding the president were withdrawn. And the question that
the president,
the governor, were withdrawn in the wake of the crisis. And the question that we should ask is, how could we permit a situation where as much as 36 military personnel will guard one man? How many people will guard the president? How many military people will guard governors across the country? This is madness. How can a governor be guarded by 36 military men? Who knows how many policemen? Who knows how many security SSS members? So how many people will be left to govern to guard the people? I think that we've got all of these things systematically wrong. We should go back to good governance. If you deliver good service, if the people have a better life, if there is good employment for people who leave university, you will have lesser and lesser need to protect yourself because people will be busy, insecurity will be low.
But if you have to go back to good governance, institutions of governance have got to be properly in place to facilitate good governance. But in River State, they have a challenge.
There is a failure of government. That's the point I just made. There's a complete breakdown of law and order. There's a complete failure of government. And I think that the governor and all the members of the assembly should be ashamed of themselves because they have a direct responsibility to the Rivers people to provide good service. And what we are seeing is a complete disgrace. Schools are not functioning. The hospitals are not working. The person who has been brutalized by a member of the assembly is now flown to a foreign country, or they are making plans for him to be flown to a foreign. What about if those hospitals don't work? They have a responsibility to provide good health services. And I think that the media has a responsibility to refocus the debate to good governance rather than the mechanics of politics and law.
We're almost out of time, but the question, are you from River State?
Yes, I am from River State, but that's of no consequence. I'm speaking as a Nigerian.
That 5 people attempt to impeach, out of 32 attempt to impeach a speaker?
I'm not interested. Look, let me tell you one last point. When there was unanimity in that assembly. You know what they did? They approved, and the governor signed a law that says when the Governor Mechi leaves office, the River State government will build a retirement home for him in River State.